Hi, this is Steve from Discover.org, and the topic of today's video is how to leverage employee location data for sales and marketing teams. And I wrote a few jokes about leveraging headquarters address versus employee location, but when I told the jokes, I just got a lot of blank stares. I guess you had to be there, which is the point of today's training. Right? How do you know where people are? How can you leverage that information to maximize pipeline and revenue? So welcome to another Discover session. With the introduction of the gig economy, with completely digital workforces that work from home, with companies corresponding across cities, state lines, countries, and continents, the pain that we hear from a lot of our clients is, well, how do I know where these employees are located so that I can leverage that information to create more pipeline and revenue? And with a great data provider, you can have that information at scale and then being able to leverage it in some really creative ways to, again, set more meetings, create more opportunities, have more pipeline, more predictable revenue. And one of the ways to do that is with just traditional outbound sales development. And one of the worst things that SDRs can do is to call someone at 5 a.m., right? I think you have to be a real masochist to want to get a call first thing in the morning. When you wake up, you're groggy, you hear the name of the company, and then you just get frustrated, right? But there are optimal times to call organizations. And what we find is, especially for executives and VP level, high level contacts, the best times to engage them is before and after work, maybe between 8 and 9 a.m. or between 5 to 7 p.m. because the phones aren't ringing off the hook, they're not in meetings nearly as much. So if you can call them at the right time, it's incredibly valuable. Plus, you can add an efficiency, right? Because most people view LinkedIn as sort of the gospel for where people are located. But the problem is you can't get that data at scale and put it into your Salesforce instance or whatever CRM you're running. And then you also can't do it, just one-off in a sales motion that's very efficient, right? You pull them up in your CRM, you go to LinkedIn, you come back, you think, oh, that person's in San Francisco, I'm going to give them a call. And the problem with that is that's not a very fast motion. So if you can have the employee location data in your CRM, then you can run by time zone. So if you have your SDR team calling through given time zones, they can do East Coast, they can do Central Time, they can do Mountain, or varying hours. And what that's going to do is increase the connect rate for the cold calls. So that's just incredibly powerful. If you can increase the connect rate, your SDR is going to have more conversations. You're going to fill the top of the funnel with more opportunities. So having all that information native in your CRM at scale is just going to be much, much more efficient, and you'll have fewer 5 a.m. fiascos. The other thing that I wanted to talk through is direct mail, which, let's be honest, I think 80 to 90% of the mail we get at home doesn't matter. Right? I think Geico and MasterCard have spent thousands of dollars on me trying to get me to switch to them, and I just throw it all away, right? I should put it in the shredder, but I don't. But what's nice is when you get things at work, especially, you're like a senior director or a VP, right? I think the CEOs are getting a fair amount of direct mail, but not nearly as much as they could. So one idea I heard is to send a big chocolate foot, right, to get your foot in the door, right? Which I thought was pretty clever. And I think that you can differentiate yourself in an overall strategy of account-based marketing or selling by saying, all right, I'm going to do digital ads from the marketing team. I'm going to go direct mail for marketing. I'm going to have my SDRs call. Right? I'm going to have someone come and knock on the door, a field sales rep. So for a comprehensive strategy, if you know where the employees are located rather than the headquarters address, right, that's going to be a big advantage. What you don't want to do is send chocolate strawberries to the New York office when your target is in the Austin, Texas office, and then someone ate your delicious gift. There's also ways to automate direct mail, which there are lots of different providers like PFL and many, many more who can then make it very, very easy to just click through when you have the location data just send out a gift card, or it'll send out a note, or it'll send out some of these gifts. So having that data native in your CRM, again, is just a much more efficient way to leverage the direct mail process. The other that's just huge is mapping territories. If one of your reps targets SAP, right, headquartered in Europe, but they have a big office in the United States, right, you want to be able to leverage that for fair distribution of just the territories so that they're more equal between the different sales reps. Last thing you want is animosity, because some sales rep has an excuse saying, I just couldn't hit my numbers because my particular geography or my territory just isn't as robust as someone else's. You don't want them to have that kind of unequal distribution of the territories. So mapping with employee location as a data point is just more fair, but it's also good for the distribution of inbound leads. So, speed to lead is just incredibly important. In fact, there are stats that say outside of 5 minutes getting to a lead, your chances of converting that lead go down by 80%. So you really want to have that data just right in front of you all the time so it can go to the right person. Because if it has to go to someone to get their eyes on it and then they have to distribute it to someone else, that inefficiency in the process really slows down how quickly you can get speed to lead. So the fair distribution of the territories and routing the inbound leads to the right person based on employee location rather than headquarters is really valuable. And one thing we do at Discover.org in terms of on-sites is when Henry Schuck or Patrick Purvis or Katie Bullard or one of our executives will be on site with a client, which we do on a regular basis. Well, if that on-site, let's say it's from 11 to 1, it's maybe a lunch meeting, well, what is Henry going to do between 8 and 11? And what is he going to do between 1 and 5? And then are we going to have a dinner with a client? So if we have all the data native in the instance, you can fill in the gaps for those on-sites, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to make it very easy to ensure that they have a busy schedule. So we'll just send out a report to all of the sales reps and all of the customer success managers that says, Henry has an opening between 8 and 11. Do you have any clients there that you could go visit? And then the sales reps say, do we have open opportunities with anyone there? And again, if you're going by headquarters address, you might be reaching out to the wrong people and you can't book that slot. And most of our sales reps and customer success managers think if Henry or Patrick or Katie can sell a deal for them, even better, right? One of the other great ways to leverage on-sites is a similar offering, but for learning and development. So at Discover.org, some of our largest clients want an on-site so that we can train tens or hundreds of people all at once, and they take it a little bit more seriously if we can do it in person. Well, knowing where the headquarters address is versus employee locations is just incredibly valuable, because then you can offer more learning and development opportunities, and we can become stickier, right? Drive user adoption, and then increase our renewal rate. And then the other is just the same motion, but for on-site sales calls, right? If you can have a sales call that someone's going on site for a particular meeting, if you think about the costs for all of these, there's the plane tickets, there's the hotels, there's the entertainment costs. If you can divide that over more meetings, whether it's knocking on a door of a new client and just bringing a gift, or however you want to do that, or if it's meeting with a current opportunity, knowing the employee location data is just incredibly helpful. And then some of the most creative ways I've seen this happen for smaller customers is a lunch and learn. So these are, especially for companies that are active in their local communities, they have to do a lot of on-site work. Maybe they're selling networking equipment or whatever it happens to be. It's nice to be able to put on a lunch and learn and then drive attendance to those events, leveraging the employee location data. So again, sending out email campaigns, following up with cold calls, trying to drive attendance to lunch and learns. And one of our clients actually had a really creative way to put on a sushi cruise in the San Francisco Bay. And, most people like sushi, right? And they wanted to fill this cruise with the right kind of contacts to sell to. So they hired one of the best chefs in San Francisco. they leverage the zip code data for all of the individuals for where they work, because let's face it, no one's driving from the outskirts of Oakland and Walnut Creek and Danville to drive all the way through town to get to a sushi cruise, unless they're fanatical about it. Otherwise, you just want to make sure that they're within a certain radius of those zip codes, leverage the data, fill the boat with the right people, and then generate many, many more opportunities. So it's a creative way to bring people together. I've heard of other things like training from a professional bartender to make cocktails, and all sorts of creative ways that people can leverage the location data. And then I think the most obvious one, where it's the most risky in terms of the investments, are trade shows, right? We want to make sure that all of this money is going to the right kind of things. So if I have a booth at Dreamforce and I'm spending 6 or 7 figures there, I want to invite as many people as possible, right? So if I'm going to a third-party trade show, I want to know all the people who are there so that I can, before the event, drive as much attendance as possible. So whether it's a creative way to spin a wheel and they win prizes, or whatever it happens to be, you can leverage the employee location data to invite the right people to those trade show events. But the same thing is true if you're putting on your own event, right? You want people in your backyard to be able to come to that event. So for a quick recap, right, knowing the time zones for optimal times for prospecting, being able to send direct mail, especially in an ABM or account-based everything strategy, mapping territories for fair distribution or distribution of inbound leads, doing on-sites, whether it's for executives or learning and development or sales calls, and then events, especially creative events and trade shows. All of those things can benefit from knowing where the employees are versus the headquarters address. And again, knowing the office locations, or in the gig economy, knowing where people are located, that's just so much more important than it's ever been, as there's many digital workforces that correspond from all over the country, all over the world. So having a great data provider and having the right employee location data, but doing it at scale rather than trying to get it from LinkedIn, all of that thing is very important. So thank you for making it this far on the video. We really appreciate it. Be sure to like and share, and then comment below. I'm happy to interact with those comments. And again, happy prospecting.